Yeah, I want to go ahead and call finance to order.
Okay,
June 1st.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Thames, Mr. Higginbotham,
Here.
Ms. Smith is absent, and Mr. Harden. So you have 4 present and 1 absent.
Oh, where's Mr. Harden?
Oh, he just went that way.
I'm sorry, I
Food,
thought-
sorry.
Okay, we have 3. We have 3
So I
here.
have 3, so Harden's not here. I'm sorry. I
We're
saw him
hanging
earlier.
on. We're hanging on. All right. Do I have a motion to dispense with a reading of the previous minutes and approve them as distributed?
So moved. Second.
All right, Mr. Higginbotham, second by Mr. Thames. So weird. I'm used to hearing voices from certain places and they're all over the room.
Yeah, we're in here. Yeah, he went there. He's here.
Okay, let the record reflect Mr. Harden is in the house.
Okay, are you
Mr.
voting on
Harden
the
in the
minutes, Mr. Harden? Is he going?
Are you going to vote on the, all in motion? We made a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve them as distributed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That's 4-0. Sounds like to me. All right. Moving on. I believe we'll get finished with these. A lot of these are going to be carried over. 220917, request for update, Board of Education, bond construction project and funding. Anything to report from anyone? Have any report on that?
No new report, other than that they're on schedule. Now that COVID has slowed down a little bit, they're wanting to give us a tour of the high school whenever we can get together on some times.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, next one.
1107, so we're going to carry that over without objection. 110717, update on the new Public Safety Center construction project. Thank you, Ms. Andrews, for inviting me last week. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for that. I know many people have taken the tour and are very, very excited. What is the date, the move-in date? Who has the latest on?
Yeah. I don't think they know exactly.
Yeah, I think they're still working on it, but that's the target.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll carry that over. 060220, request for consideration of funding street improvements. We got Ward 1, Councilors Gwaltney and Thames. Aren't we waiting on an estimate for that, Mr. Thames?
We moved this to budget hearings last
Yeah, I
week?
thought we,
Let's see, let's look at our.
Yeah.
Move anything like this that wasn't already in the budget to next year's budget.
Well, the minutes say carried over.
I know they did. I'm not sure that's right.
where's that?
In a different committee in addition to finance. Got moved there.
I would,
It's on public.
Well, does someone want to move to send it to
Can I make a
budget
comment?
hearings?
I would like to make a comment beforehand. Do we have a accounting for what's left in bond issuance?
We're going to take, I'm sorry, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman. I think we're going to take up a lot of that at our work session on next Monday, 5 o'clock.
Perfect. Yeah, it shows.
I'm sorry.
I said, right, I talked to Melody that you guys are going to give us a bottom line and how much money we got for the, for the street improvements and street projects.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought we left this here for any additional projects that were out there, but if that's not what the minutes reflect, then I would say we can move to send that to budget hearings to address any other street improvements. This was for Central, right? Originally it was Central.
It was originally on there for Reese Street, and we have a estimate of the cost at around $250,000. I'm not on the committee, but my preference would be to leave it here if we do have, that's not a lot of money considering the bond issue and such. And I feel like that's such an important connector and it's going to take so long to build that if we do have the funds available and we can apply them to Reese Street, that'd be beneficial. Sidewalks, street lights, pedestrian safety. There's so many people on that street. It's a very, to me, this is one of the most important improvement projects that we could do pedestrian wise right now.
Okay. Okay, so we'll carry that one over as well.
Great.
Okay, 160220, request for consideration for lighting for 700 block of Windsor Drive. And talking to Randy Hambley, we're waiting on Alabama Power, and it should take a long time. He feels like it's going to take a long time. So I don't know if we need to table this, or I mean, anyone in Ward 5 have a,
Mr. Jones, I'm sorry. Randy called me back this afternoon after I spoke with him earlier today, and he said that he should have something from Alabama Power for the next 2 weeks, and asked that we not table.
oh, okay, okay.
I'm sorry, I meant to tell you that. I slipped my mind.
No problem, no problem. So he'll have an answer in 2 weeks. So is this, I can't remember, is this in public safety? Do they need to act on this, or is just pretty much just,
It's only in finance that I could see. I didn't see it in the other committee.
okay. I just want to make sure that we don't delay it. If it's not, we can handle it here. I just want to make sure. Yeah,
We have another Alabama Power lighting issue on public safety, but it's completely
But it's
separate
not
from,
Windsor
it's not the Windsor Drive one, correct?
okay. And this is a large project, as I understand.
Yes. According to Randy, it required surveys and setting of telephone poles, and that's why it's taking so long. It's just not putting a light on a pole.
Okay, well, if you can provide all those details to finance, that'd be great. Has it been vetted within Ward 5? I mean, is this definitely something that you've looked at and want to do, or do we need more due diligence on it in the next
No.
2 weeks?
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
I think there's nothing down that way. If I
correct.
remember right, from whatever, I'd say from Devon south, it doesn't seem like there's anything. In addition, the one right at Devon and Windsor that's not working.
Okay.
There's at least three lights, maybe four, that aren't working today. And so, but we're talking about a new light that kind of takes you further down. That's kind of a dangerous curve as you get down that way. At night, it's real tough.
Okay,
You don't want to be walking down there, I can tell you that.
okay. And so this project has nothing to do with the lights that are out. I mean, we
No.
need to handle those.
Yeah, that's a whole
separately.
different,
Okay,
it's probably public safety.
Or I've sent that to Randy.
Yeah,
I can
I mean,
resend
I
it
think
then.
we've told it. Bigger public safety is probably that water coming out the sidewalk on Rumson.
okay. So we'll carry it over till the 15th
Okay.
to that meeting, and hopefully have an answer at that point. So everybody take a look at that, the 700 block. 070420, request for discussion and consideration regarding the RSA option of Tier 1 and Tier 2. Let's see, I believe the mayor requested that we carry this over. Is that right, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The mayor reached out and asked that we carry this over until our next meeting. We've obviously been busy with a lot of other things, so we really have not gotten all the information together for this. So give us another couple weeks and we'll get this together for you. So we're going to carry that over without objection. 020520, request to consider adopting a donated sick leave policy for city employees, brought to us by the mayor and Ms. Salter. And where did Ms. Salter go?
We're doing a resolution. What she and the mayor have want to try to do here is to bring the city under one uniform policy instead of having departmental policies. And she has several examples that she would like to present to the council. But at this time, with everything else going on, she asked that we just carry this over. But that's the purpose in it, is to make the city unified under one same policy.
Okay. I don't think we're going to pass anything tonight. Carrying it over.
Well, you
Okay.
said it would be fast.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's true. Okay, 030520, request to consider revisions to the employee handbook. This also is coming to us from the mayor and Ms. Salter. And as I understand with this one, we're waiting on a report from Cobb's Allen and Hall to provide that. Is that correct?
Well, Melody's been working on the revision. We've had so many amendments done to the handbook over the years. And when Cobb's Allen was brought in, they reached out to us with their HR department, and she's taken what we've done in the past and provided it to them, and they're going to give us their opinion about what needs to be deleted, added, and different implementations in our handbook. Okay. And yes, sir. Yes, we're waiting at this point for Cobb's Allen to get back with us.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. So we'll have to carry that one out. And whenever you get anything, Mr. Burdette, you just send it out.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to new business, 140520. Question consideration of taking over cost of existing street light next to the intersection of Crest Avenue and Columbia Road. I attempted to get information on this, but I was not successful. I had it on. I'm sorry about that. So for the consideration taking over the cost of existing street light next to Crest Avenue and Columbiana Road, does anyone have, I just was not able to get any information on this particular item.
JJ, do you know anything about it? You need to probably come up to the microphone.
I guess go up to the microphone, I guess, or Brian will fuss at us.
Yeah, there's a lady that had been paying for it for quite a while, and it's out in the street actually. And I asked Randy Hambley to look at it, and he said it's an existing light, but we'd just be taking over the cost. I thought, did he email y'all anything?
It was $149.
Yeah.
41 cents. Yes, sir.
And she's been paying for it all this time, and it's across the street from her house, so it really benefits everybody. And yeah.
Crest Avenue and Columbiana Trail.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Columbiana Trail.
Yeah.
Trails.
And the cost every month is $145 to run that light?
Annual.
Annual.
I'm sorry. Annual
It's
cost.
annual. Yeah.
It's $149.41 annually for it. Do you know if it's in the LED lights?
No, sir. It's still the old light.
The old light. Okay.
Yeah. And they said they wouldn't switch it over to LED until we took it over, or because she's paying for it on her bill.
It's really good. It's quite helpful. It doesn't even serve her purpose. I don't know why. She inherited that house from her friend, Betty Powell.
Okay.
Betty Powell was paying for it.
Yes, sir.
She's been dead 10 years. She's just been paying it every month or so.
Okay. So,
yeah, Shirley
so it
would.
would be, that'd be coming out of the 7-cent
Yes.
gas tax.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to keep it? I mean,
Well, Randy made the comment when I got the price from it, and again, he said that when a street light faces a residence, the residence pays for it. When it faces the street, the city pays for it, and this one faces the street. That's
Okay.
If you take it out, there'll be somebody next month after you put it back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right there. At the, yeah.
I live right up there too. It is the only one that's not LED up there, so it would be very beneficial.
It actually serves parks.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, do we have a motion to approve $149.41 out of the 7-cent gas tax for the existing street light at the intersection of Crest Avenue and Columbiana Trail?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Mr. Higginbotham, and I believe that was Mr. Harden. Okay, any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed by the same sign. 4-0. And is there anything on that's tabled that we need to deal with? We have this sidewalk project thing on here, but
That's on there, Mr. Jones, for as we come up with new projects and
Good,
P&D,
okay.
we'll move it over here.
Okay, got it. Okay. And then the Soho garage, that one on 18th Street.
Mr. Jones, before you adjourn, if I may, I was going to say something just since we have some free time.
Sure.
Mr. Hickenbotham and Mr. Wolverton and myself had the opportunity to tour the public safety building, and I know several of y'all have done that. And let me just spell out, I know we're all going to get over there eventually, but what, really a nice facility that thing is. And I don't know how many of y'all have seen it, but I mean, the capabilities and the various aspects of all of public safety that we have covered in that one structure is phenomenal. I really appreciated Captain Sutton. He did give us the encyclopedia tour of the place. I'm grateful for that. And actually my son went and he enjoyed it as well. But I just wanted to thank him for that publicly, and just while we got some time here, I was thinking about Captain Sutton and Chief Ross and how much they care about that project and that building, and how grateful and lucky I think we are as a city to have such good leaders in public safety to really help spearhead that project. I know we've got a bunch of projects going on, but I just wanted to take a moment and say that. Urge you guys to go see it. I mean, we got our courts there, we got our jail there, we got our police there, we got parking there. We have a lot covered. So I know it's not completely finished yet, but it was really an impressive tour, an impressive facility.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just echo what President Wright had to say, it was just a fantastic facility. So many things that we did not have before. There are many. The one that comes to mind first is just the weight and exercise room that Captain Sutton emphasized over and over again was going to be such a wonderful recruiting tool for us, because there just weren't a lot of police departments that had those kind of facilities. And I know one of the first things I did when I was elected to this council was go on a tour of the current police facilities across the street. They were inadequate, to say the least. They were, frankly, just not worthy of the people who were in them. And so I'm so happy to see a facility that really reflects the quality of our law enforcement community here in Homewood, and excited to see them get in there really soon. So I'm glad President Wright took a moment to speak on it, because it is something, if you haven't gotten over there, you ought to go look. Although I have to say a lot of the rooms don't have the furniture in yet. So Captain Sutton just said, this is such and such. And I'd have to go, okay, I believe you. There's no furniture to indicate what this is, but I believe it is one of those. So, but it's just a magnificent facility. And so thrilled to have been on the council when we were able to do something to make that a reality, because I know it's been talked about for years. So thank you, President Wright, for bringing that up.
Thank you, Mr. Higginbotham. The thing that I'll say quickly is that the projects that, as executed by the police department, and the way Berkeley Squires has managed his projects, have been really, really tight in the way they've handled them, and they have been almost on budget with everything. So I appreciate being judicial with the funds and responsible with the funds. So I appreciate the way that all those have been run. Let the record reflect that Mrs. Smith has entered the chamber, and I must say her hair looks fantastic. And I don't know, Brian, if you need to, I don't know if you need to get the camera on her. Yeah, so I'm going to let you make the motion to adjourn so everyone can. Okay.
Second.
There she is. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Commercial utilities being underground. So hopefully we'll have that ready in a couple weeks. Under the current situation, it's been a little bit behind because we've all been busy with COVID. So we'll carry this item over with no objection. All right, 11-18-19, request for consideration of parking management system RFI. This item has been moved to the budget hearing with the recommendation. Would y'all recommend moving it to budget hearing as well, just to be consistent with finance? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move to
Second.
finance. Okay.
Second.
McCluskey and Mr. Harden. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries 3-0. 010220, request for updates in the Grand Spring revitalization. Director Squires, and I do not see him in the audience. I'm trying to remember the last update. Oh, and please make note for the record that Mr. Wolverton has joined us.
I got it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking up. So for those of you that might not have seen it, the plans are up on the city website now. So if you can go check those out, that's probably the extent of the updates I have on the Green Springs revitalization project. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll carry this item over for a future update from Mr. Squires. 050420, request for Birmingham Waterworks Board to address a leak at 300 block of Rumson Road. Any updates?
JJ's not here.
He was here.
He's in the lobby.
Can I go get him? Yeah, I've asked him. I do not want to drop this from the agenda. I'm sorry. I just don't. I mean, we're just going to get that thing fixed. We just are. So, thank you.
It's a Birmingham Waterworks issue,
It is.
even though it's right along our sidewalk.
It is. JJ, any news from the waterworks?
Yeah, I talked to the guy down there. He's gonna call me first.
You're the best.
On that, at 306 Rumson. That's what I
Correct.
told him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bischoff. So Councilor Anderson Harden, you had also referenced there were some issues with some patching that needed to be done. Mr. Burgett was going to reach out, I think, to Mr. Chris Thacker for us. Are those also in the 300 block?
Yeah, so there are two sections, and this is not Spire, because I've spoken with Spire. There are two sections that have big, giant, blobby asphalt in the sidewalk. And that is further down from the leak, and it's all related. And it looks like crap, and I want it fixed.
And they had, the hole that I had to move the little yellow thing over on, they fixed it. Looked like they kind of left the little plastic thing there, but it wasn't the best job in the world, but they still had a little need for people to be careful there. And so thus that.
It was an asphalt patch in a concrete sidewalk?
There's very.
No, this is in the street.
Oh, okay.
But there-
The massive hole that was in the street that I came across on my bike, I don't know, Saturday, I guess. I can't remember when it was there, but
Okay.
it was bad.
And
I mean,
yes.
it's probably-
Now, I will note that sometimes, because keeping up with the patches in Ward 1, they have taken 1, 2, and 3 months, because sometimes once they tamp it and the patch has to settle, they then come back and remove the hot pack and actually pave it out. But Mr. Thacker, I'm sure, learned the ropes from Mr. Ash. So, Mr. Burgett, will you just provide
Yes,
him
that's the
300 block of Rumson Road?
Yeah, but let me say the asphalt, yes, there are asphalt patches, not patches. I'm talking big as this space from me to John in the sidewalk of asphalt.
Okay.
So
And
that's
then
not an
he's
asphalt
replacing
patch
concrete.
in the asphalt. That's an asphalt section in our
No
concrete
question.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
And it looks like crap.
Anybody should know asphalt and concrete.
I don't know what the purpose of
Yeah, you
those.
can't miss it. But
They obviously had a hole there for some purpose. Then they put asphalt in for a temporary fix. I don't
Correct.
know what their plans are to put on concrete.
Also in the 300 block.
all in
Okay.
that same section. But I will also
wait.
say that thanks to the pandemic, those sidewalks are getting great use. So after all the drama with the mailboxes, we are making
So-
good use of the sidewalks.
I guess I just have a question. Do we know that it's,
Yes.
I mean, we know that the leak is Birmingham Waterworks, and I know she's getting that addressed. But with all the general contractors and everybody else that comes out to saw open holes and fix, I mean, are we sure that all of those incidences are not independent contractors coming in for plumbing issues for the residents and things like that?
No. I think this stuff's, to me, it's clearly stuff going on along the road that
Okay.
they're doing for whatever reasons.
Okay.
But maybe our engineer knows.
Okay, Mr. Cobb.
Some of the ones in the sidewalk were done by the gas company. And I spoke to them. Now, I haven't been over to look to see if there, some of them are water, maybe some of them are gas, but the gas company did some of them. And I spoke with them before they even cut them, and they're supposed to put them back. They put asphalt there just to make a smooth walking surface so they wouldn't have a trip hazard. Then when they get their concrete all together, come do them all at once.
Okay.
That's what,
Okay.
I can't answer for the waterworks, but I have talked to the waterworks last week. They have a contract out to bid right now to replace the main line all the way down the street.
Excellent.
They're gonna tear it all up. So I think at that time, we ought to have them, or with us, however it works, repave the whole road when it's finished.
Yes.
Because it looks like a patchwork quilt right now.
No doubt.
Yeah, and even if it was just a small patch, they're still supposed to comply with our new, I mean, it's 2 years old
Right.
now, the ordinance about
That's
the
correct.
edges and sealing it and everything.
And that road has got 4 to 6 inches of asphalt on top of 8 inches of concrete. It's a bear to work on because you've got to saw cut it.
Yorkshire Road between Windsor Trace and Rumson is really bad too.
Awful.
It is.
Really bad. Yeah.
But Homewood has a guy named Alan Ash who tracks all these things, and he's really pretty good at it. So, he keeps it all on a flow chart.
We've just been hammered over there. I mean, it's just really been.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's been terrible for a long time.
It's terrible. But let the waterworks get finished with their main line, and then let's make it
But I
pretty.
still, I
Yeah.
want that leak fixed on the sidewalk though. JJ's going to talk to the guy.
Yeah, the leak on the
That's-
sidewalk
I
is
can't
a
wait.
dangerous thing.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. We appreciate that. All right, so with that item of 504, we'll carry it over for an update at our next meeting. Are there any other items that are on the table that anybody would like to discuss or take off to drop? Or Mr. Wolverton, you want to keep the neighborhood buffer considerations on Oak Grove on the table? Okay.
Actually, since Mr. White's here, do we have any further information about the clearing that was going on a couple of weeks ago?
Are you referring to up near?
Yeah, further back off of Oak Grove.
Off of Oak Grove?
Well, it
Kind of abuts Oak Grove Road in the back of the neighborhood there. Back by kind of where the Lowe's development, yeah, all that.
Talking about the Wildwood North Circle.
Yes,
Past Lowe's and-
yeah.
No, well, I do have some here.
Sure.
just real quick.
Yeah, I just spoke with them today. They're getting all the paperwork together now to go before the planning commission because that's a planned mixed-use district.
Right.
Before they can do anything, they need to have a plan. They kind of got a little
So
too,
they have to get approval before they do what they were starting to do.
that's correct. They had not been given approval to do anything. No land disturbance, no clearing, no anything. They just got started.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we'll keep that item on the table. With that, the Public Works is adjourned.
Lutheran Church for a year and a half now to try to look at their site in an effort to see how they best be able to monetize a portion of their site to hopefully add some revenue to the church. They want to stay at this location. They've been there a long time. Excuse me, Paul Shabacker with the church is here tonight, Paul, and Pastor Eric Murray's here. We began working with the church to look at a portion of their site to see what would be an appropriate use for the unimproved site. Obviously, being on church property, there's a limited number of uses that would deem appropriate not only for the church but for the city as well. So we began talking to the church a year and a half ago. And do y'all have the packet in front of you that was voted on by the?
We don't. We
Planning?
will have it for the council public hearing.
So you don't have really anything to look at. Sorry, I thought that would have been.
Normally
So-
it would, but we're in different circumstances right now.
Gotcha. Well, I apologize if I was supposed to have downloaded something for you, but you all know the site. If you're standing on Chase Creek Parkway looking at the church, a portion of the site east of the church is unimproved. It has trees and landscaping on it. That's the portion of the site that we have worked on a development plan to build a boutique office building of some 25,000 square feet. It's 2 levels above above parking, and some parking just to the north of the building. Met with, when I began this process, I called Ms. Andrus and said, tell me about how you would suggest we proceed with having the city and the neighborhood consider a development on this site. And Ms. Andrus was very helpful in providing some insights about how to introduce the project to the neighborhood. And we did that. KPS, Gray Placer, is our architect. Walter Scholl Engineering is our civil engineer. I've worked with both Gray and Walter on a number of projects over the years. Without having the plan, I'm a little confused about how to talk about it. So we met with the neighborhood, presented the plan to the neighborhood, invited some 60 odd residents. Mike, how are you? 60 some odd residents that live in close proximity right behind the church. To the church, Pastor Murray was that'll be good. May I pass this around?
Sure.
Yes.
Here, if you just want to hand them to me.
Pastor Murray was kind enough to host a gathering right before the pandemic hit, so we were able to gather. And Mr. Harden was there. Jennifer was there. We had maybe 7 to 10 residents that came. We answered questions, presented the plan, and it was, I think, widely accepted by those that were in attendance. You know, it kind of fits in nicely with the Fairway building is on the other side of the drive where we're talking about. So a nice boutique office building that is more focused on, you know, investment firms, that type of tenant would be in the building. Like I said, there's a limited number of uses that would, I think, be suitable on the site. You wouldn't put a, you know, fast food restaurant there. The building, I think, in the rezoning of the sites, the way we have presented it, the church zoning would stay the same, and we would rezone a portion of the site to C1 where the office building would be located. So the church zoning stays the same. They certainly want to stay there long term. They have no intentions to move. We rezone the site to C1 where the office building would be located, and we have church does not want to sell the site. They actually want to ground lease it. So we'll enter into a long-term ground lease with the church. So we've presented to the neighborhood. We have one issue that's come up recently, and that Center State Bank owns the building probably known as the Lucky Building, just to the northeast from the site. We've had some discussions with them about some parking issues potentially that we're working through. They're here tonight, and they certainly can speak for themselves. I hope that we can work through those issues. There is an abundance of parking up behind the church, including the parking with Center Street. So we've just begun to have those discussions with them. Actually met on the site today, and hopefully over the next several days, we can reach an accord. That would be my hope.
What is that? Elaborate on the parking concerns. Does the building, as you're hoping to construct it now, meet our parking requirements?
Well, when we work with the church with some cross parking, it will be have parking 3 to 1. We have some 59 spaces on site, and we probably need 75 spaces total. So the church, there's gracious plenty parking behind the church that we've always anticipated having, cross parking with. Certainly during the weekday, nobody parks there. There is just an abundance of parking. So there's some agreements that go back to 1985 between the church and the developer back then of the building that carry forward to today, and there's some ambiguity. So that's why we're having the discussions with Center Street to try to work out how we can both use some of the church's parking. They have some rights to the church's parking. So those discussions are ongoing.
Do you anticipate that being resolved by the public hearing on the 8th?
That would certainly be my hope. Yeah. I hope we can resolve it before John Bragg leaves tonight, but there's no guarantee to that. So we've just begun to have those discussions. My intention would be that we would resolve that. I would hope that we could.
Any questions from the committee, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir, Mr. Silverstein.
Mhm.
I'm confused on and maybe this is what you were asking about the parking. Like one schematic has the visitor parking between the existing parking and the proposed office building, and then the other one does not have anything.
Can you hold up what you're looking at now?
Okay, well, I'm looking at this one,
Yeah, that's right.
and then the one after it does not have the parking in between.
That's just a different level. The first page.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the lower
The lower level. So
Below.
how many parking spots do you have under?
There's, let's see.
I'm having trouble reading it. So
There's a total of about 59, maybe 30 some odd underneath the parking.
okay,
And then above, we have another 20 something that gets us to about 59.
I think it says 22 spaces above ground. Okay, so then below ground. Okay, so
So that design shows the upper level parking and the parking below the building.
Okay. And so what I would say, so tonight, I went and read the planning commission minutes and everything and got as much as I could. But if we can get this information to Brian for the public hearing next week,
Absolutely.
he can show it
No question.
there so everyone can.
My apologies.
Smith, you haven't seen this, so.
Actually, my house, because my aunt's house is right here, so I actually.
Okay.
Have her-
Mr. Wolverton, can you come grab, can you meet me halfway?
I had thought that the planning commission, whatever the planning commission had would have been forwarded,
Any other questions from the committee or council?
I will just add, as David mentioned, Council Harden and I were in attendance with the neighborhood meeting, and it was very, very well received. And I just want to commend everyone for the church and David and the architect for their communications with the neighborhood. I think it's such an important model to follow. I would tell anybody moving forward, anyone trying to do a rezone or a development, to communicate. And you all have done that. And they have told us repeatedly. There was another instance that somebody reached out to me about something else and said, I wish they would have handled it the same way that you handled it. So I do want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Obviously didn't handle meeting tonight very well.
You're fine. That's not your fault. Don't worry.
I just want to go on record, not really a question, it's just saying I like the shared parking because you have a parking lot that is, I'm not sure how utilized it is during the day, but a church parking lot during the day, during the week is not going to be used as much. So that's the right step forward for the city. We should be looking at this kind of stuff in every scenario instead of paving over every lot that we, have in the city and taking away the greenscape and also the impacts that it has conversely on our storm sewers. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, if I may add a comment, just a general comment on future about how parking decks and parking will be handled by most cities. Going forward, the use of automobiles is going to be totally different. And ratios that have been in place, parking ratios that have been in place for 50 years need to be examined because I think the focus need not be, and I think your point is well taken, more asphalt. That we're going to, changes are going to occur the next 10 years, the next 20 years. And you're going to have sites that are just overparked because the people are going to be using cars much differently. Uber will come back. We'll be out of this health crisis. Ride shares are just going to continue. So I would encourage you as you look at the future as a city and your parking ratios to focus on the issues that you're talking about. And most of this, if not all of this parking issue that we're trying to resolve with the bank really has to do with overflow parking. And I would submit to you that it's the exception rather than the rule that it's ever going to be used. But certainly the bank is concerned that they have sufficient parking to meet the zoning requirements because the zoning requirements are what they are, So my hope is that we'll work with the bank and come to a resolution.
Mr. Watt?
And I'll just say, well, I'm John Bragg, and I'm from Center State. And the reason this is coming to 11th hours the original notice went to our old address on Shades Creek, catty corner across. So we didn't know that this was going on until really last week. And so when we got into, see what the easement says that crosses with us and the church, that's where it all came. And so, and I think David and them realized as much as well what our rights were, and we had not talked, and we really had started the discussions Thursday or Friday of last week. So we met on site today, and it's our hope that we'll meet a resolution. But we do need to obviously maintain the value of our building as well. So,
Sure. Mr. White?
Excuse me, Mr. Bragg, could I get you to sign in, please?
Oh, sure. Just one real quick question, Mr. Solson. Do y'all have a tenant yet, or is that yet to be determined?
Yet to be determined. I've learned through all my years that zoning needs to happen. I need to be able to say to a prospective tenant, we're zoned and we can produce what we're promising you. We're in discussions. I don't want to mislead you. We're definitely in discussions, but I feel like a turtle sticking its head out of the shell to even be talking about new development right now. But, I'm optimistic that we'll handle the crisis, the healthcare crisis, and that we'll be back into, developing projects. This submarket for office is a great submarket for this type of building. I think John could probably endorse that, a building that's like this should be well received by the market here. And the last point is, I think the C1 and what we're designing fits your master plan. I was told by your planning department that this rezoning in this building that we're designing is in keeping with your master plan for this particular site. And it would round out that corner nicely and sort of take it off the table as having any future problems, so to speak, from a zoning standpoint.
Sugarmo?
Thank you, Mr. I have a real quick question. I looked at the diagrams, just trying to follow them. I have a fogging issue with my mask, and so I have my glasses off, but I think I'm following. I just question, is this site the same place where currently the Scout Hut exists, or am I thinking?
That's part of it.
So what is the future of the Scout gone, I suppose? And
yeah, it would relocate, but the church is going to work with the Scouts.
Oh, absolutely. Serving Scouts work on our Constitution. We actually look at Scout through the law.
thank you very much. Just curious about that.
Any other question?
I would love for the church to make a comment. My feeling is that the church has been such an excellent neighbor. I've lived in that section of Hollywood for 18 years, and it's such a beautiful location. They've been such an excellent neighbor to Homewood, and what I love about this project is that they are sort of another layer between us and the developer, because nothing came to us that they hadn't already approved, and so I would love to hear from them on this as well.
Yeah, I'll say a few things that Pastor Murray can speak to. I think that everybody knows that the mainline denominations are struggling these days, and church attendance is down. And we decided as a church, went through a strategic planning process over the course of more than a year to determine what our future would be. And we looked at moving, we looked at closing. Thank you. What was the third option? This is the third option. Right. The third option is subdivide the site, create a revenue stream out of that subdivision of the site, and then sort of assure our future on the site. So that's really the reason that we're here is a financial need for the congregation.
But we're committed. I mean, we really want to stay in that. And that was by far the opinion of the congregation. They really wanted to stay in this location and continue to serve this community and not try to relocate who knows where. They're committed to this neighborhood and this community.
And it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm an old friend of John Bragg's, and I know David and Michael that works for him pretty well. So I feel like I'm a little bit in the middle on this parking thing, but I think the church probably has more ability to help both parties in the parking than anybody else. And I agree with David that one day we aren't going to need all this parking. Today, I think we do. I think people are still driving, especially in the South and in a town like ours, I do think someday we're going to be on that with people when Andrew Wolverton's crowd gets old enough, they won't drive anymore. But I do think the church is an important piece of this because there's a ton of parking there that all can be utilized. And I understand what Center State's goals are, and it's not today, but one day if they sell that building, they want to be able to give someone enough parking. Again, we don't know the future, but I'm hopeful the church is going to kind of help solve this parking issue to give them their minimum they need. I think 3 per thousand in C1. So
That's why we exist, to bring people together, right?
right. I'm just putting a little pressure on you, Pastor.
Yeah.
Well, when we met on site, we should have started the meeting with a prayer about Pastor. But we just jumped right on.
From the church's perspective, we're agreeable to most any solution that the party work out. So it's pretty simple from our perspective. We don't use the parking spaces during the week.
Okay, well, there's a public hearing set for June 8th. I'm sorry. Oh, public hearing set for June 8th. So given that, is there a motion?
Yes, I will move out without recommendation pending public hearing.
All right, motion by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Wyatt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. All right, thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.
Andrus?
Here.
5-0, we have a quorum.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as presented without and dispense with the reading? All right, I think that was a motion from Mr. McCluskey. Mr. Gwaltney, sorry. Second from Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, that is 5-0. Approving those minutes. Okay. We're going to take an item out of order, 190320, which is request for permission to remove a live tree in the city right-of-way at 140 West Oxmoor Road. Paul Ross, Central Paper, and Wyatt Pugh and Greg Cobb. You want to come on up, Mr. Ross? Thank you. And we have, I actually have an email. Henry Hughes went out last week on Friday to look at the trees. Brian, can you pop the pictures up? Oh, there you go. Okay. So yes, Andrew.
Just to clarify, I didn't know if we needed to amend it now or later.
Well,
but-
we'll
okay.
get to that. Yes, we'll get to that. Okay, so those are pictures of the trees that Andrew took. They are in the city right of way in front of Mr. Ross's business, which is Central Paper on West Oxmoor. Henry, like I said, went out on Friday to look at the trees, to assess them and see what he thought about the condition of the trees. So here is Henry's email. These are a lot. There are 3 trees in total. 2 of them are pines, and 1 of them is a Bradford pear. These are loblolly pines and a Bradford pear. The loblollies probably came up on their own under the power lines years ago. They are very mislocated. This species typically reaches between 60 and 90 feet. To keep them pruned to 30 feet, as they have been here, creates an ongoing maintenance problem. They're essentially hedges at this point. They are poorly anchored on the slope in front of the building on a wet site and exposed to the wind, the conditions that dispose the tree to toppling, in this case directly onto West Oxmoor Road. The Bradford pear is a tree that should never have been brought onto the market, as we are learning some 40 years after they were planted everywhere in the 70s and 80s. There's another one in Hollywood that I just advised the city to remove. They are prone to splitting, overly dense foliage, and dying back so that the rootstocks of the wild pear overtakes the grafted scion, yielding a thorny, dangerous tree. And it says, basically, I think that urban trees should be a clear asset and not a detraction or liability. I agree with Paul Ross that they are better removed at this point, and smaller trees planted that will not provide endless maintenance and possibility of toppling. So that is the word from Henry Hughes. Now, originally, Mr. Ross asked about one particular tree, one of the pines, but because Henry was going out to look at the trees, and after Andrew spoke to Mr. Ross, we decided to go ahead and have him look at all 3 of the trees, and that was the report that he gave. Basically, he thinks that all 3 of them need to be removed now. So, and I know, Mr. Ross, you may want to comment, because you had offered to, at some point, have one of the trees removed.
When we first started, I did not know if it was city property, but
Right.
following guidelines of Homewood being a tree city. I was asking the policies for having the trees cut down. And then when I had the information given to me, then I forgot who came out first, but they asked to see if they could change within the right of way of the city home property. Paul, you go up to the microphone.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But I was trying to just go ahead, and I didn't know if it was within city property or not at the time. So that's why I volunteered to have it cut down. But being the tree city, we just asked if we were following the right guidelines to have the permits issued and then making sure we followed the policy of planting other trees on the property or doing what else was needed. And then the discussion got complicated because then I did find out that I think it was in city
Right of way.
right of way.
Yes.
So that's we were trying to do. And, you know, I'm still offering to take care of it ourselves as Central Paper Company. So we would just leave that recommendation up to y'all, I guess, in the final decision.
Andrew, you have some?
Yeah, and Mr. Ross, I believe, just so that everybody else knows, you know, we had discussed the first tree and then you'd said eventually, you know, you might be looking at the other two. And so that's why we kind of tried to get Henry to look at all of them at one time and possibly amend the item.
Was first in question was the furthest pine.
Right.
Going, I think it would be south on West Oxmoor towards the very end of our lot.
Sure.
And the tree has already been cut on the back side. All the limbs are off, but now they've grown back into the power lines again. It's sitting up higher on the ledge that the drainage ditch runs in front of West Oxmoor, continually cutting off the back tree limbs. With it sitting on the ledge with the water, it's just going to continue to weaken, and it's falling that way in Oxmoor Road. What you didn't see is some of the limbs reach out into Oxmoor, and a couple of those tractor trailers that come down West Oxmoor have clipped some of the limbs extending into the street already.
And there were actually several limbs that had been hit while we were out there on the site a week or two ago looking at them. You could see the branches that were from a tractor trailer that had just come by and clipped them off.
The other pines were more deformed, but you know, they're starting to grow. We've cut them again with the Alabama Power. Because that's the first one that was, I guess that's the tree that's mainly deformed right there. That's towards the northern side. And it's all been cut off more on the back side too. And you can see it's leaning towards.
Yeah, Brian, if you can go to the further out angles, you can kind of see those a little bit better.
I don't know if most people understand a pine tree, but a pine tree's only got one deep root. And it's really, of all the trees that are most likely to fall, it's typically a pine tree because they don't have deep roots.
Well, and also Henry mentioned that because it's on that slope in front of the drainage ditch, it doesn't have a really good place for the roots to go down anyway. And because of all the rain that we got in January and February,
yeah, that's a good angle.
The soil is super saturated. So it's actually kind of forcing some of the tree roots up. So it's actually helping the tree to get to a position where it might fall if we had a good wind. So
that's the second pine tree that's more deformed than the first because we have to continually cut it so it stays without it.
I'd just like to point out that Mr. Ross had, again, asked to go through the correct process, which we appreciate here. And he's offered to take them down at his own business expense. And then also, you know, again, in compliance, wanted to replant with, you know, within the tree ordinance and what's allowed. So, so he was more than willing to meet all of those criteria. So.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Mike, does he have the right to take down trees in our right of way?
We're giving him, that's why this is on the agenda. But we would need to, if we want to let him do all three of the trees, we need to amend the existing item to, instead of just be the one tree, to be all three of the trees. Because that's the only difference right now. That's the whole reason we're here, is because we're allowing him permission to work in the right of way to take the tree down. But we would need to amend it to include the three trees rather than just the one.
And I'm not going to cut the tree down myself. I will have licensed people that would come and do the applications and all there too. So follow the procedures that are laid out.
I have a question, Ms. Smith. Are there plans to replace?
I don't know what the restrictions are or where it would be, but I wouldn't plant them near the power lines. I can tell you that.
Well, of course.
We've already planted magnolias on the side. Planted some magnolia going up Snow Drive. I think, yeah, Snow Drive on the side of this Citation Court. Citation Court going up the side. So we can plant some there. We have an acreage that's still unused there that we could plant more trees in the back. We planted 3 fruit trees already in the back. We've got plums and pears already. So I'm not sure I haven't seen an official list of replacement trees.
We do have one on our website.
I told him that we could get him a list to kind of pick from, and he was more than willing to do that.
And Henry's suggestion was that we not plant something back in that right of way unless we really feel like it's necessary, because he did say because of its close proximity to the road, it just makes for bad with those big trucks coming by.
I thought we.
And the root system is not good in that ditch.
So he did say, he goes, there's plenty of other places. That's what Henry said. There's plenty of other places on their property that they could plant more trees. So, all right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to allow the applicant to work in our right of way and remove 3 trees. That is my motion.
Okay, all right. Motion for Mr. Higginbotham, second for Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is 5-0, so you are approved, and we will vote on that in full council next week on Monday night.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yes.
He won't need to be here next week.
No, you do not need to come for that, unless you just have a desire to come to a city council meeting, but otherwise you do not need to attend. We'll let you know. Okay, in the interest of time and everyone's sanity. 171015, request for consideration of noise and odor problems from Buffalo Rock and Mayfield Barbers. We did have a very strange noise issue about a week ago, and luckily one of the neighbors was able to catch the noise on her Ring video doorbell. So we were able to send the video over to Buffalo Rock, and they figured out what the problem was and supposedly have taken care of that problem. It was 2 fans actually, that were malfunctioning, and someone had propped a door open, which they're not supposed to do. So that was taken care of, and we're still dealing with other issues, and we'll update y'all as we go along and as we can when something happens that's substantive. So we'll carry that one over. In 170220, request to address trash pickup concerns and requirements for downtown business properties. Mr. Wright?
Yes,
Anything on this?
request this be carried over again. I did email Berkeley a couple of days ago. He's currently out of town he has a draft ordinance for us to look at, and for me perhaps to share from Mr. Kendrick. I don't have that yet.
Okay.
And as soon as I get that, we'll be ready to start working on that proposal for you.
He's actually, he was moving. They closed on their house.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, so they've been moving.
Right.
All right, so we will carry that one over for future discussion, and unless somebody wants to oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we are adjourned unless somebody has anything. All right, good.